What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. I do not know if y'all have seen Quiet on the Set, this documentary about the dark side of kids' TV, focusing on mainly Nickelodeon, but I have fallen down the rabbit hole, y'all, because John Wayne Gacy has been trending on my social media feed all day, right? In between that and Where is Kate? But I was like, wait, hold on, because is this um, the vile excuse for a human being who unalived several children? Why is he trending on my social media feed? And I mean, it was like all day, right? So I found out that, and I'm going to try to keep this recap as YouTube friendly as I can, but Brian Peck was a dialogue coach on the set of Nickelodeon, and he was problematic in more ways than one, and I'll get to that in a second. But he was pen pals with John Wayne Gacy and actually showed the child actors and their parents. He was having a house party. He showed them letters, okay, and a signed, I think it was like a signed letter, some kind of signed collectible or something from him. And nobody, but except like one child actor, thought that it was a red flag. Okay. But y'all, let's get into it because this new documentary, it is on ID. It's called Quiet on the Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. And it takes a deep dive into the working conditions of both child actors and adult staff on Nickelodeon in the 1990s and the 2000s. In particular, the documentary tracks the influence producer, Dan Schneider. Now, if you guys remember Dan Schneider, he created the shows like The Amanda Bynes Show, Drake and Josh, just other shows that were prominent, during Nickelodeon in their heyday. And he was actually on this old show, the sitcom called Head of the Class with Robin Givens. So he was a student on that. But the documentary opens up basically saying that, when he was a student on the show or portrayed, he was an actor, child actor himself, he was considered, like the fat kid, and that he was really trying to repel that label. Like he wanted to be more than that. He wanted to be seen more than that. He wanted power, essentially. Okay. So Dan Schneider goes on to help shape Nickelodeon in the kids programming, creating shows like All That, Keenan and Kel. He was responsible for those shows. So in the documentary, some of the writers and former child stars and other staff that worked with Schneider alleged that the atmosphere behind the scenes was toxic. Okay, like this woman here, she was a writer as well. She was, in her story, you guys, the stuff that they had these women do, her and another writer, Jenny, first of all, they said that they made them split their salary in half, right? So instead of them taking on a full-time salary for a writer, he said, well, since you're women, why don't I hire two of you for the price of one? Okay. He gave them 50% of their salary. Then he basically had them on call like 24/7. And he had her bend over a chair and act out this scene as if she was it was really brutal. And so she even said, like, she's like, I don't want to talk about it. But it was a very toxic work environment. I'll say that, right? And so her coworker, Jenny, actually ended up suing him for gender discrimination, a hostile work environment, and they settled for an undisclosed amount. But even Jenny said, that she called her up and said that they were going to sue Dan Schneider because he made the living conditions just basically unbearable, right, for them to be young women. It says here that the today.com, this is what the article, and I'm going to link it in the description, guys, for you guys to read. But he says that denies allegations of misconduct, most recently telling Today.com that he expected a lot from his teams. That's an understatement. He put these people through it. Do you hear me? He expected them to work long hours and make successful shows. He got frustrated at times, and he understands why some employees found it to be intimidating and stressful. It says the fact that many of the kids on the shows were put in horrible positions of becoming the breadwinner for their family and the pressure that comes along with that. Add on top of that the difficulties of growing up and having to do so under the spotlight while working a demanding job. Okay, here's some of the kids they were talking about. As a child, nobody understood that pressure better than Dan Schneider, which is why he was their biggest champion. Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon parted ways in 2018 because Dan said himself that he was a tough boss to work for and that if he could do things over, he would act differently. But let's be clear, when Dan departed Nickelodeon, a full investigation was done. And again, what was found was he was challenging, tough, and at times inappropriate and demanding. He was a demanding person to work for and nothing else. Okay, when y'all watch the documentary, I'm telling you that the things that they said, like, first of all, they had this young man, right? And Brian Hearn, right? He was part of the All That cast, but they also had them do like a child's version of Fear Factor called Dares on Set, where they covered him in peanut butter and they had like dogs licking the peanut butter off of him. He's like, I don't like this. He essentially said, him and the rest of them said that, him and Giovanni she was the other Black girl on set, that they were overlooked. His mom had an issue with how they were portrayed as children, but a lot of the stuff that they had to do was just not for children. Brian's mom had his back though. She called people out on a lot of the stereotypes and the things they were doing that was harmful to her son. She stepped in as a mother should, okay? And of course, he ended up getting let go. I expected that. But she saved him, she said, essentially from a house of horrors. Because this young man right here, Drake Bell, okay, he sat down and he described his experience as being horrific, okay? Brian Peck, the guy I mentioned earlier that was friends and was pen pals with John Wayne Gacy, he stole this young man's innocence. He said in the most brutal, unspeakable ways you could think of. So that's all I'm going to say about that. They essentially, his dad was trying to protect him and try to keep him away from Brian Peck. But his mom actually let him spend the night over Brian Peck's house, which is in and of itself, it blows my mind. But he said he was 15 and he was just holding this secret. It was eating him alive. So anyway, at the time, his girlfriend's mom clocked it because Brian Peck kept blowing up his cell phone. This was like back in the early 2000s, back when folks had the Nokia phone. But they ended up calling the police and getting a confession out of Brian Peck. So he was sent to prison. Before he was sentenced, though, he went to the courtroom. He said it was just me, his mom, and his brother. He said he looked on Brian Peck's side, okay? And behind him and his defense attorney, Brian Peck had 40 to 50 people from Hollywood, from Boy Meets World cast, James Marsden. They all wrote all these letters to the judge to try to defend Brian Peck, knowing what he did to Drake Bell, sitting here telling his story. And the thing that really got me, y'all, was the fact that when Drake told his story, and this documentary just came out, the kids from the cast of Ned Unclassified, they were mocking his pain, like yesterday. And I'm like, are y'all serious? And he wrote on Twitter, like, are you serious? Like, that's real classy for you guys to mock me when I've been a victim of this horrific abuse. Y'all, this documentary was wild. Um, it makes me think back of like Amanda Bynes. She's supposed to be taking her nail technician test today. But just thinking about her and all the rumors that we heard in regards with her and Dan Snyder, Ariana Grande, a lot of the stuff they were showing was just really inappropriate for children to be doing at that time that Nickelodeon did green light and they showed on their network. It just broke my heart. They said working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship, and those were the adults, okay, let alone the kids who were essentially powerless. You guys check out this documentary. I want to hear your thoughts. I really hope all of them get the healing that they need because they have really gone through the ringer. And my thoughts and prayers are with Amanda Bynes. As she takes her test, I hope she wasn't triggered by this documentary, but you know, Drake Bell, I mean, he's gone through it. And, I listen, I'm glad that the truth is coming out. 2024 is exposing them all, okay? From Nickelodeon to the entertainment industry, I feel like the music, Hollywood, the comedians with Cat Williams, Nickelodeon, I mean, they are blowing the roof off of everything Hollywood. So you guys drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen it or not. But this documentary was really wild. The person I want to talk to is Kenan Thompson and his mom, because I know they had seen some things with Kenan. He came seemingly unscathed. He's still working at Saturday Night Live, the longest, tenured member there. But yeah, I want to talk to her because she did a terrific job protecting her baby. You guys drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Bye.